Hello and welcome back to the Villa View for a video ahead of Aston Villa's game with Birmingham City at the weekend. Today, both Dan and I are actually sat together in the same room for the first time in a long time, and we're going to be discussing our favourite memories from games against Blues.
And what the derby means to us. So obviously I'm a lot older than you, so I remember some of the dark days of derbies. Because for the start of my life, Villa never ever really played Birmingham, so there wasn't really a rivalry in my eyes because I'd never seen Villa play. Birmingham, I think they played each other once in the Cup when I was young at St Andrews, and Villa won. But other than that, they were never in the Premier League, so they were never really on my radar. Like Birmingham fans at school, they didn't really bother me because Villa never played Blues. But then suddenly, Birmingham came into the Premier League, and we had a game in September at a time when Villa weren't very good, and I was quite a prominent Villa fan at school, and I remember that.
Mr. Popular.
Oh, well, not Mr. Popular, but I had a season ticket. Not many people had a season ticket, so everyone used to come to me to ask me about Villa. And then obviously we had that famous incoming game at St Andrews with Steve Bruce, obviously in charge of Birmingham, where we got smashed 3-0. And I was just like, suddenly, all these Birmingham fans were coming out of the woodwork that I didn't even know were Birmingham fans. Like, I remember when we lost to them at Villa Park that season as well, I called in sick the next day to school because I couldn't take it. I didn't want to go. There was another girl at school who was Villa season ticket holder as well, Anne-Marie, and I remember her. She was actually on the telly crying. So at the start of the Birmingham rivalry, having never been with them in my life at all, suddenly then I was the target of rivalry abuse just because I was a Villa season ticket holder.
Obviously, my first few derby games was when we beat them 5-1. One of the most prominent memories. That's one of the most prominent memories I think I've got as a Villa fan in total. But obviously, it's for many fans because it was just an incredible performance that day, winning 5-1, 2 goals from Ashley Young, John Carew on the score sheet, and Gabby Bongler obviously finishing the job off as well. You know, it was a perfect day in terms of being a Villa fan. That was an incredible one.
How old were you then?
I was about 10, 11.
Jeez. So it's a completely different introduction because Villa then went on an unbeaten run against Birmingham. But as I say, when I was young, we didn't beat them for the first 2 seasons in the Premier League, or maybe it might have even been, I think it was 3 seasons, we just didn't beat them. I remember us being 2-0 up at Villa Park and Thomas Hitzelsberger scoring, who I knew, and I remember being absolutely chuffed. But we conceded a goal in the 97th minute to Stern John and drew 2-2, and it felt like they had like a curse over us. They had Robbie Savage obviously running around being a tit every game, and we just couldn't get the better of him. And Robbie Savage, actually, when he was at Leicester, we never used to beat Leicester, and suddenly this guy rocks up at Birmingham, and we've got the same problem. So the early memories for me are just haunting. Whereas for you came into it when Villa were a good side, whereas I came into it when we weren't great. And then obviously probably the O'Neill days when we beat them 5-1, and I think we beat them under O'Leary a couple of times as well with the Gary Cahill overhead kick. Like, that was just relief more than anything, because to me we kept losing to him, and it was horrible.
I remember the Cahill flick goal, the overhead kick, was just an unreal goal. I don't remember anything else from that match. I just remember being sat at my aunt's watching it on a Sunday afternoon, I think it was, just watching that rifle in. I didn't really understand football too much at the time, but I still remember that goal quite vividly.
Yeah, it was just, that's when you look back at the special times you've been at Villa Park, had in the heart, and that's one of the ones that stands out, because you can imagine, you know what it's like now when you score a goal. Can you imagine what it was like when Gary Cahill, someone who'd just come through the academy, he hadn't played many games for us, and we had an understrength side that day. I think it was him and Ridgewell were playing centre-back. For him to do that, score that unbelievable goal, I mean, he should have gone on and been a Villa hero if it wasn't for Martin O'Neill deciding that Zach Knight and Curtis Davis were superior defenders. That was a good game, because again we had injuries, we were struggling in the league, but I think they were struggling as well. I think we've sent them down virtually a couple of times. I know when McLeish was there and we beat them 5-1, he said that Villa were on like a different planet to Birmingham. It's always nice to hear stuff like that, and even now that's what I think. There's a lot of parallels going into the game this weekend that there was at that time. We're obviously, I know we lost to Reading, but we've been on a good run. They're on a really bad run. Zola's in big trouble, and you just think there's a lot of parallels running in to that game, that there could be a really special game about to happen at Villa Park on Sunday. We
can hope so. Obviously, some of the other more memorable encounters include the 1-0 where Milne scored the penalty a few years ago at Villa Park.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was a dodgy penalty. If anything's a dodgy penalty. I'm still undecided to this day whether it was a penalty or not, or whether Roger Johnson got the ball.
I can see why Birmingham fans would say it wasn't a penalty, because he did get a massive slice of the ball, but I remember Martin O'Neill saying that, he got more of the man than he did the ball, and he got the man first. I think that's probably fair. Obviously, as a Villa fan, you're going to say it was a penalty. But if I was a Birmingham fan, I know I'd have been very, very upset at that decision. But then if you look back further, the Enkelman game, that goal shouldn't have counted because he didn't touch it. So it evens itself out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Twos and throws, and obviously the one that everyone remembers because of how bad the season was is beating Birmingham City last season. Been relegated from the Premier League, but we still managed to beat Birmingham City through a Rudy Gestede goal. But the only thing you did for Villa was that goal. Like, if we're being honest, didn't do much else during his time at Villa.
It was an awful game, that first half. I mean, we should have lost that game.
Yeah, we should have.
Really, we were very, very poor. I remember Damari Gray, who was at Leicester now, was playing for Birmingham, and he caused us a few issues. He's a good player. You could tell then he was going to be a good player, but we weren't great that night. Kieran Clark was playing in midfield, wasn't he? Tim Sherwood made a master tactical decision of Kieran Clark in defensive mid, and it just wasn't working. We got out of jail that night. Grealish came on and turned the game, and Ayew, them two came on and completely turned the game for us. But that's the thing. It seems as I shouldn't be going on a fan channel and saying stuff like this, but however bad we are, we always seem to be just better than them. Like, it's like now, we're 11th in the Championship or wherever we are, mid-table Championship side. We're not great, but they're in a worse position than us. And like, even in the season when they won the cup, they went down. So we always seem to be the superior side. And that, in my opinion, whatever happens at the weekend is why they'll always be in our shadow. I mean, I remember an awful 0-0 at Villa Park under Gerard Hurley. I don't know if you remember that one.
That was awful.
It was grim. Yeah. And I remember it was 0-0. Final whistle went. And I remember Craig Gardner was playing for Birmingham, and he jumped up and went like that at the end. You've drawn 0-0, mate. Like, that's the kind of mentality in the main that we're dealing with here. So I hope we absolutely rinse them on Sunday. But I'm aware that derby games don't always go the way you expect. Form goes out the window and all sorts.
Well, David Davis, really do hope that he doesn't play, or he gets injured quite early on, because he's a horrible player to be playing against. Obviously, he scored in the 1-1 draw in that game earlier on in the season. I think it was October time when we played them. Gary Gardner scored that brilliant looping header.
Yeah.
And I think that if we're honest, at the moment, the way our form's been dipping a little bit, a point would be interesting. Obviously, we've got the preview coming up, but I don't think we'll be taking a point. I think we will be taking 3 points. But that game again, though, in October, we wasn't at our best, and Blues had their chances as well.
It's a different time, though. They've got a manager there in Gary Rowett who I think understands. He understood what the Birmingham Villa meant. He'd been at Birmingham for a while, so he understood how much Birmingham want to get one over Villa. And I'm sure Zola knows this, but I can't see him having the same impact with the players. The players aren't really playing for him. They need points. I mean, we need points because we want to end the season well, but to us now, after everything I've just said, our season's pretty much been a write-off, really. We had brief glimpses where we might get past, but this is now
building up.
If we win this game, then people will probably go home at the end of the season reasonably happy. If we don't, people will be livid.
So really, we can't talk about a derby game without mentioning that man there,
Big Gab.
Gabby Abongmore. I must say, it's the only time I love him is when we play Birmingham City or West Brom or Wolves, because he always pops up, and ironically he's back fit in time to play Birmingham City, and you have to wonder whether Steve Bruce is going to throw him in there.
Well, the same thing happened at St Andrews, didn't it? He'd been nowhere near the team, and suddenly he found himself on the bench at St Andrews. He seems to have this timing where the derby game rolls around and he's there. You wouldn't bet against him coming on and scoring, would you? I mean, he hasn't scored for about 73 years, so he's due a goal. He's
obviously scored some great goals against Birmingham City, notably the one in that 5-1 win where he brought it down on the halfway line, if so, ran forwards and pocketed it in the bottom corner past Mike Taylor.
Well, the ones at 2 at St Andrews, the two headers, like, he'll go down in. I'll always have fond memories of him just because of those goals. It doesn't matter what he's done in the recent past. If I go back and look at some of the memories that he's given me in my time as a Villa fan, I'll never forget that. It doesn't matter what he does now. You'll never be able to take those kind of memories away, and you'll never be able to take that away from him, that he was the Derby Day hero. So fair play to him. If he has grown up a Villa fan, as he says he has, he's put Blues to the sword twice, so he'll probably end his career pretty happy. If Gabby scores in the derby, you get his name on the back of your shirt next season, if he's still there.
No.
Oh, that's poor.
If Alan Hutton did...
Well, if Alan Hutton scores, I'm getting him on the back of the shirt anyway, so I've got fear every time he comes up for the corners at the moment. I think the players will want to win this game. I think they'll understand that they're good players. They haven't perhaps achieved what you'd think they would have done this season. They want to win the season, having achieved something of note, and I think beating Birmingham now is the way to do that, and we've got a manager who obviously knows that derby from both sides now, so he'll know what it's about, and I fancy us to win, hopefully.
So the derby game is only a few days away. Keep an eye on the channel for more derby content upcoming. If you have enjoyed this video, then please do drop us that like below, and also comment in your favourite memories ahead of the big derby, and subscribe with your post notifications on if you are new to the Villa View. If you enjoyed that video, why not watch another one? Click the video choices on screen now to go and watch them in full. And don't forget to subscribe. Click on our logo there on the left and press subscribe. Easy.